really do. Good
Okay.
morning, or good night, good day.
So there was a person in my group coaching program who had this saying every single time he joined a group meeting, he would say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or wherever you are. I was
Yeah.
like, man, I really like that. Like I thought that was really clever. But today I'm really trying to fine tune these to be super quick so that we can give the hardcore stuff to the members only podcast. Today I wanted to talk about automation versus personality, and not automation like how we know it. Like I have the website set up so that when you come into the website, when you buy or when you pre-order my book, then it automatically orders a book to print and the book gets shipped to you, and you automatically get an email from me. And in order to start that whole process, I make an Instagram post and it says comment book down below my post, and I'll DM you the information. And then my little brat bot comments on the post and is like, thank you so
Yeah.
much, check your DMs. And then
Yeah.
in the DMs it says salutations, I'm really glad you're stoked about this, here's the link.
Yeah.
When I talk about that for automation, that's not actually what I'm talking about for
Yeah.
this podcast. It's the same concept. Like the whole goal of automation is to streamline the process so that there's the least amount of thought for us.
Yeah.
Angel and I had this conversation where for the clinic website, one of the things I really struggle with my first year of clinics is I really wanted it to be personable. I really wanted everybody to interact with me. I wanted it to be a small business. It was cute and it was adorable. And in order to do that, they had to fill out a form on my website for the date they wanted to sign up, what bike they were on, what their skill level was, what they wanted to learn in class, what they were most afraid of. It was this whole thing. And it was really great. I got to gather all this information and I got the email and I was like, cool. And then I would individually write the same exact email to all of these people back, and then I would send them an invoice, and then I had no idea if they were going to show up or not because nobody ever paid their invoices because they didn't have to pay up front. And it was this whole really stressful experience, and it was all because I was like, are they actually going to sign up? Like what's happening? So this year I automated it. So this year now you go to the web, I make a post, I say comment clinic, and I'll send you the clinic information. They go to the clinic website, they have to pay before they can give me that information and before they
Mhm.
get the email with all the information about what the clinic stuff is. Because if they show up and they didn't pay, I can't not have force them to not attend the class because they're in the area. They're just going to sit on the outskirts and watch.
Yeah.
Not about that anymore. So I started automating it, but there's still the ability to be personable while automating everything. So when I talk about this, I sent Angel a screenshot this morning. A gentleman sent me an email and he thought I was Carolina Dirt Bike Rentals, which is a company that we partner with. It's actually one of my students runs that business, and we partner with him and help get some traction in clinics, and we do a lot of exposure, and he did a lot of networking for us. So it was a really good partnership. And he found my email on Zach's website, admin at Leaky Mushroom Moto Ranch, but it was under the tab that said guest coaches and clinics.
Yeah.
Here's the information. My email wasn't on that website. So they went from Carolina Dirt Bike Rentals to the Leaky Mushroom Moto Ranch website. And then on the Leaky Mushroom Moto Ranch website, they found my email and then
Mhm.
sent me an email for Carolina Dirt Bike Rentals. And that email said, and I quote, "Hi, I came across your website and just wanted to say how much I love the pictures of your dirt bikes. My name is blank, and I work at blank, a lead generation company that specializes in helping motorcycle dealerships grow their customers base through effective online campaigns. We recently launched a social sharing contest. Say that 7 times fast. We recently launched a social sharing contest for one of our clients, and they saw 287 new referrals in just 27 days. Can we chat about how we can do the same for you? Thanks." Now, I know that you're probably like, what does this have to do with sponsorship? I don't know about you, but I am guilty of finding something super generic to say that can break the ice to anybody that I would reach out to, and then copy and paste that 100 times a day into a LinkedIn Messenger or into an email CRM, Consumer Relations Manager,
Mhm.
which just automatically sends emails out. And the thing about that is when you do that, first of all, it leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. Like I read that email and I laughed. I laughed so hard. I screenshotted it. I sent it to Zach. I sent it to Angel. I was like, can you believe this guy? Like what? First of all, wrong company. Second of
Yep.
all, both Zach and I are not motorcycle dealerships. Third of all, I love the pictures of your dirt bikes. Come on. Like, what? And it's only funny to me because I've done it. And I'm on the other side of it now. Like I used to do like, hey, I really like your company. I really think we would work well together. Let's schedule a meeting or something, you know? Um, and by now, you've listened to the podcast with Sherko, where he said the number one thing he hates is what, Angel?
Laziness.
Laziness.
Yep.
The most lazy thing you could do is come up with a generic icebreaker. I like the pictures of your dirt bikes. He knows that all motorcycle dealerships are going to have pictures of their dirt bikes somewhere on their website. So it's just the most generic copy and paste sent to everybody. And it's easy for us to do that because it's a numbers game. Like, oh, the one person who responded no doesn't matter because I still have 399 other people waiting to hear back from them, you know? And the problem with the numbers game is you can only talk in such tiny, minute numbers. You're talking discounts, you're talking hundreds a dollar, you're talking $100, you're talking maybe $500 if you're lucky, you know. So you're sending out, you're taking the time to find 400 emails, right? And you're copying and pasting the same exact message 400 times to send out in hopes that just one of those people will say yes because you're playing a numbers game. You're talking such low consequence. You yourself are not involved. So even though I said no, I actually wrote back and I was like, P.S. don't do this. Like if you're trying to get sales, don't do this. Like my company's wrong. You got the wrong company. I'm not a motorcycle dealership. And you very clearly showed that you have no idea what I do. Like even if you could recover from that, I don't want to work with you. Even if your results were positive, I have no reason to want to work with you because you showed you don't care.
Yeah.
And the thing is he's not going to read that. He's not going to open that. And even if he does, he's going to be like, somebody's just salty. They could have just said no. You know, like we all do that. We all do where we send out this mass thing and people write back to us with advice or like critiques, whatever. And we're like, they could have just said no. Like, what was so wrong about just saying no? Because we didn't invest ourselves in what we said, in what we did. We didn't have some form of investment in it. Wherein, what if you took that time that it took to write those first of all, you had to find 400 people to write emails to. You can't just like, not anymore. You used to be able to, but nowadays you can't just buy an email list. Like, because now you get all.
The thing about that.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Good. I was just gonna say that, like, eventually, like, you're gonna play the numbers game. You're gonna run out of numbers eventually. Like,
Also
you're
true.
gonna run out of emails. So, like, you're gonna go through the list so quickly. If you're messaging 1,000 people a day, say, or even 500 people a day for 2 months, then who are you gonna message after that? And then everybody said no because you took a chance. You know, like, why?
Now, yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly important thing to realize. And yeah, we have a lot of companies cycling in and out and new people show up, new people leave, but there's still that bridge that you may or may not have burned. And I saw it the other day. I was actually reaching out for podcast stuff and I messaged somebody on LinkedIn that I messaged 4 years ago with a super stock like, hey, I'm really trying to get sponsors this year. Like, would love to chat. And I cringed so hard. And instead of writing him a message of like, hey, I'd love for you to come on my podcast, I ended up writing an apology. I was like, I'm so sorry I did that. It was truly appalling. Like looking back, I'm really sorry that I wasted your time like that. And that right there shows that you have taken the time to like look into people. You know, with Brian, in order to get his attention, I was like, hey, I noticed that you're the director of corporate sponsorship for Circuit of the Americas. I noticed you signed like the first multi-million-dollar deal. I want to talk about that. Like, I want to talk about that multi-million-dollar deal that you signed when you broke history. Like, everybody has something they do. Angel broke the ice with him about running, like his ultra marathon. You know, And everybody's like, oh, it's so much effort. I have to go in and look up these people. And it's like, yeah, but instead of sending 400 emails that you have no attachment to, it's easy for you to get rejected.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy for you to take that rejection because you weren't invested in them. What if you
Yeah.
took that time to write those 400 emails, and with that list of 400 people that you got, you wrote 10 emails?
Yeah.
And what if your success rate out of those 10 emails was 60 to 80%?
That'd be great.
And then what if you only did 10 emails a month? And out
Yeah.
of those 10 emails, you got 6 phone calls. And out of those 6 phone calls, one company was a really good match. And then you signed a 2000. What if it's as low as $2,000? Because that's the
Mm-hmm.
most common sponsorship that I sign is a $2,000 sponsorship contract. Like
Yeah.
just $2,000 a month for writing 10 emails instead of maybe $2,000 writing 400 emails.
Yeah.
And the difference being you took a little extra time to figure out what it is that person actually loves
Yeah.
and then talk about the thing that they love. And
Yeah.
like, I had to say that so sultry. I'm so sorry, everyone listening. But like, what, I love talking about sponsorship. This guy
Yeah.
was trying to sell me on lead generation. If he had just looked at my website, he would have
Yep.
known that he was trying to sell me my business.
Yeah.
My whole business is cold outreach to people. Like
Yep.
I'm sorry, I don't need your lead generation. I already do it. But if you positioned it as something like, "Hey, I noticed that you do this. What if I could help? What if I could bolster it? What if I could like double your numbers? Maybe we should have a conversation and see if I have a different strategy than what you use." Something along the
Something
lines of
like
like,
that. Yeah.
"I saw you do this thing. Do you want to talk
Yeah.
about that thing that you did? Because I think I might be able to help you with it."
Yeah.
But instead, he thought I was a motorcycle dealership. And it's just like, come on. And it happens all the time with sponsor outreach. I know I made the one podcast where I actually read that email. It was like, "Hi, my name is blank. I would love to be sponsored by your company. Please see the attached." That's what I mean
Yeah.
by automation. Like you're taking so
Yeah.
many shortcuts, it's just it's oh, you're taking so many shortcuts, it's insulting to the
I
person
think
who
that,
gets the email.
yeah. And I think that that comes from like everything that I've always heard about, like for anything that I heard about sponsorship before all of this was like that it's a numbers game, like you said, and that it was about or quantity and like
Yeah.
how many times you put yourself out there versus like I think what you're talking about is more quality than
Yeah.
quantity. So
I
I
wrote this chapter in my book, the Don't Say Sponsorship book, which all you got to
Mhm.
do if you want to pre-order it or order it, depending on when you're listening to this, is go to don'tsaysponsorship.com. And as
Mhm.
I was writing this chapter, I actually got that email and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But I talk about how when I first started, let me find it. Here's the intro story. Dun 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 dun. Here we go. Um, it started with when I had my very first coach when I was road racing. When I took fourth place overall, and I was really going for that first place overall. Like I knew that I could take it if I just put my head down and trained.
Mhm.
I got a trainer who worked with Olympic athletes. He worked with NFL players. He worked with all of these really high profile athletes and a couple motorsport athletes as well. Some Fox
Mhm.
racers, some motocross racers, and when I recounted my sorrows and woes about how much it costs to fucking race, he was like, "Why don't you just get sponsorships?" And I was like, "That's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that?" Just like all of
Yeah.
us do when somebody's like, "Just go get sponsored." You're like, "Of course, it's just that easy." So he sat me down and he walked me through not just a racer resume, but I wrote like a 12-page. It was like a straight up proposal. I had the here's your return. Like I wrote it out like a research paper. Like this is my resume. One page was my resume, and the rest of it was all about these are the people that I interact with. Like this is my value here. These are the different things. Like I wrote out my year's budget because he told me if I write out my year's budget, then it gains sponsor trust because they can see what their money's going towards and they can just buy certain things, whatever. And I wrote a whole
Yeah.
research paper about like how I wanted this specific drone over the other two drones. Like I made a comparative analysis of 3 drones. I was like, these are the 3 drones I want, and I want this one in the middle because of XYZ, because it's not the most expensive drone, but I can justify it because it's better than this drone. And it was like all of this crazy wacky stuff, and at the end of it, it was beautiful. It was formatted. It was the most professional thing ever. And I actually have the examples in my Don't Say Sponsorship book about like what I did.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the most winning thing I've ever made in my life. Like, I was so proud of it. I had never been more proud of something, even when I was in college
Hmm.
and writing all of these research papers as an engineer. And I had it printed out. I emailed it off to all of his contacts. Like, he knew people that were the head of Target. He had like private investors that were invested in motorsports and buying like NASCAR teams and all this stuff. He's like, I got an in for you. This is great. You're a woman in
Yeah.
motorsports. You will sign sponsors. Like, it's easy. And I got crickets the whole time. And I was like, that's bananas. Like,
Yeah.
what's with that? And I just thought it was because of my lack of race experience. It was my first year of racing that I signed that 4th overall.
Yeah.
So the next year, I basically, sometime in that middle, I signed my very first sponsor, Blackfire Creative. And that was through um, like a little bit of family, a little bit of not. My
Hmm.
mother had been a client of his for a while, like wrapping cars and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and I connected with him almost as a mentor, but really it came down to I had an audience that he wanted the attention of, and he never looked at my resume. And when after he signed me as a sponsee, like he paid me to come to the racetrack and interact with the racers and all that. That's a different story. Um, he told me, he's like, you got to stop with the resume stuff because it looks like every other report on my desk.
Yeah.
Like, my desk is just this amalgamation of papers. People come in and they just put these papers on my desk. I don't know what half of them are. And then I shuffle them around trying to find the one thing I'm looking for. It gets covered up in all these other papers. And then it all gets put into a pile. And then I never look in the pile. And the pile goes in the recycling bin. Like, I never saw it in the first place. I never looked
Yeah.
at it. I never saw it. There's so many words. You got to stop with the words. You got to go with pictures. People love pictures. Make it stand out. Like, it's got to be this big, amazing thing. So me, having worked in the printing industry, I loved what he was saying. I was like, oh, I get to make a picture book. You know, I was so excited. I was like, this is gonna be amazing. And I made
Yeah.
this beautiful, it was the size of a postcard. It was a 12-page book. I printed it on like construction paper grade, fancy printing paper, and then I put a soft touch coating on the top. For those of you who don't know what that is, it feels like a pencil eraser. It is the most magnificent feeling in the world because I had studied marketing and I know
Mhm.
that the longer somebody touches something, the more likely they are to buy it. And I made sure that this book was really stark in color, you know, it was thick, like it took up space. And it
Yeah.
was this brilliant, like brightly printed action shot on the front, action shot on the back, like the hero shots, you know. And then as Adam walked me through this book, he's like, you got to really focus more on the audience. Yeah, everybody loves a winner, but like who is in your audience? You know, what do they do? Like how does this work out, you know? And then
Yeah.
he had me do the gold, silver, bronze. He's like, you got to do the gold, silver, bronze. People got to know what they're investing in.
Hmm.
This is what you need. And I was like, cool. This is really great that a company is telling me that this is what I need.
Yeah.
And he also had a huge network of people to go talk to, and I had brilliant activations ideas. You know, one of them was the maker of Simple Green, actually. And I was like, it's great. I'm going to put Simple Green in my power washer at the track, and I'll offer like free power washes to everybody, whatever. Not interested because they wanted business to business interactions. They didn't want business to consumer interactions, which was fine.
Hmm.
So I linked them with the gas station owner that I knew to put it in their car wash. So there's
Hmm.
an example of an activation. Um,
Yeah.
but so that kind of flunked, and I walked around. I went in person to all of these people and I handed them my books, and I
Hmm.
never heard back from any of those people. But the people I did hear back from were like the people I just met in the street, you know, and I had this bundle of books. And they were like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, that's really cool. Can I see it?" So I got a lot of fans from the books, but I
Yeah.
didn't get a single sponsor from the books.
Yeah.
And I was kind of defeated by that too, because it was like, what the like this company, this guy who's mentoring me, who just paid me, told me to do all these things, and none of it worked. Like,
Yeah.
what's the deal with that? So then I signed up for, so this is year 3 now of this process. I signed up for the $10,000 sponsorship collective group coaching program
Hmm.
run by Chris Bayless. And to my surprise, he had what was called a business case, and it looked exactly like the book that I made with Adam. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is bananas. Like, what is, except the thing that they focused on, it was less about your racing results, and it was more about acknowledging that it's not about sponsorship anymore. You know, it's like everybody gets the logos, the shout outs, all that jazz. Let's talk about activations. That's
Yeah.
what their book focused on, but it was still a book. And it was
Yeah.
a digital book. And the more I did that, and I emailed it all to all of these people, and I still never got any responses. So that's 3 times now I tried the, like, here's a packet, here's a resume, here's a book, like, here is a physical manifestation or a digital manifestation of all of my
Yeah.
success. Here you go, world. Like, where are my sponsors?
Yeah.
None of that worked. And it was the second I was like, okay, I guess if everybody's doing that, I should probably do something different since it's not
Yeah.
working for me. And it doesn't seem to be working for anybody else because everybody else is complaining about racer resumes and only getting discounts. So obviously nobody's getting paid. So then I just
Yeah.
started writing emails like a normal person. It was like, hey, I really respect like your company's culture. Like, I picked you because of your culture, not your product. I mean, your product's great, but everybody's
Yeah.
product is great. I picked you because of your culture. Like, I'm obsessed with marketing. Just I messaged Sundays for the dogs. I messaged
Yeah.
them and I was like, I'm obsessed with your marketing. I've studied marketing for 7 years, and never before have I walked into the house and my brother shoved his phone in my face and was like, Catherine, what do you think about this dog brand? They say there's no asterisks. He like had all of the dog food out on the counter, like going through the nutrition labels after he saw this dog food's Instagram, and I commended them for it. I sent them this huge message of me just geeking out about their marketing. They loved
Yeah.
it. They loved it. It was a genuine interaction, and now we're talking about dog food for the dogs. Like, you guys, be genuine. Like, take the
Yeah.
time to understand who you're talking to, and you don't have
Yep.
to send 400 emails and wonder if it's a numbers game.
Mhm.
All you got to do is send an email and be like, hey, I noticed you do this thing and I think that's really cool. They're like, yeah, you think so? And you're like, yeah, but it can't be something standard like, hey, I heard that you like dirt bikes, or hey, I heard that your guards are really cool, like they protect the bike really well. No. If it's some generic like, hey, I hear your oil lubricates engines really well. No. Figure something out about the person you're talking to, not the
Mhm.
company.
Yeah.
If it's going to be something like that, like if you're going to reach out to somebody in motorsports, like they hear it all the time, hey, your soap smells really good. Yeah, no shit, that's why I made it that way, so that it smells
Yeah.
good. Like,
Yeah.
what else you got? If you just take the time to do that, everything
Mhm.
else falls into place. Even if it's not $10,000, what if it's just two? What if
Yeah.
it's 500? let's
Yeah.
let's go so small to say, what if it's $100 and you
Okay.
only had to send one email instead of 400?
I'd do it. That's $100 for an email. When how many times have you written an email in your life and didn't get anything?
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
worse, people take money from you.
also true. Like fucking signing discounts, but the discount
Mhm.
only applies to orders over 100 or something like that. So then you end up spending 100 more dollars than you would have if you just never got the discount in the first place. Like,
Or 10 people have to buy before you get it, or something like that. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
that was the biggest, like, Hook It to me when I first heard about Hook It. I thought it was the most brilliant thing in the world. And after 2 months of using it, I was mad. I was like, this shit's a scam. This is a full on scam. And all it is, you want to know what Hook It really is? It's all of those sponsors that you reach out to that you're really excited, because we all reach out to the same 7 people, right? Fox, Alpine Stars. They're called endemic brands. So they're
Yeah.
brands inside of the sport that you're in. It's like Brooks running shoes for runners, or
Yeah.
Cannondale for bikers. Like,
Mhm.
whatever, KTM for dirt bikers, the brand that works inside of the industry you're in. You're reaching out to in the industry brands.
Yeah.
Um, they are sick and tired of getting a bajillion responses, but they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So
Yeah.
they push you to Hook It. And they say, look, it's a whole thing where all you got to do is update your profile and then you just get sponsors. And everybody's like, oh my God, I'm sponsored. That's not what I hate to burst your bubble, but that's not what sponsorship is. that is an affiliate or an ambassador. You are not sponsored at that point in time. I'm sorry to whoever's feelings I just hurt. But that's my final thoughts. I'll end my rant. If you need more information like this, and all of the tips and tricks that go with being more personable and not automated, you can find them all in my free book. We just talked about it. It's going to be a free book. All you got to do is pay the shipping out. And you can find that at don'tsaysponsorship.com. www.don'tsaysponsorship.com. Cue the outro music, unless Angel's got other feelings. Oh, shoot, dad joke. Oh, no.
I was like, it's your turn, so.
Of course it is.
I've got the outro music here. It is Ode de Snowblower. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if you can hear it, but it's the snow plows are going by right now. Because it's snowing in the Midwest, and not a little bit either. We're supposed to get 5 inches. Well, we got like 3 yesterday, 5 today. Supposed to get 3 tomorrow.
Dang.
Yeah. I love living in the Midwest. It's great. Just great.
You got any
Can't
final
believe
thoughts on automation or
Not
personability?
automation, but I actually did want to share that interaction I talked to you about earlier. So I was telling Catherine earlier that I used to be into the car world. I used to drag race, and so I'm part of a lot of women's enthusiast groups. And one of the ones that I came across earlier today was a woman talking about how she's trying to start a business. She's trying to get sponsorship for her racing, and she was told that she has to have something like 250,000 plus followers on social media before she'll get sponsors. And that was by people that she was like trying to get the sponsorships from. They told her, don't even try until you're over that, because no one's going to look at you. And she was just so like devastated and like, how do I increase my following? Like, how do you ladies do it? And I immediately was just like, no, that's not a thing. I screenshot it and I sent it to Catherine, and I told this girl, I know this coach, she's amazing, and she can totally help you. So I am getting her to talk to Catherine, because we all know, if you've been listening to this podcast, that that's not the case, that you don't need to have 1 million followers just to get a sponsorship. So, but it's kind of cool to me now that, like I said before, like I am thinking in activations now. Like I'm constantly thinking about it. Like when I'm having interactions and people are saying things, I'm like, oh my God, that's so not right.
Yeah. And the thing I like to remind people about, when you reach out to a company and they say you have to have X amount of followers, they always focus on followers and not who is in your audience. And I think that's really strange from a business standpoint, that they genuinely don't care about who your audience is. They only care about the number of audience you have. Because for any effective marketing campaign, it is much better, and this comes back to automation versus personability, is that it is much better to target a very small audience of the right people than it is to target a very large audience of medium people. You always want to go after the people who like need it, want it, love it already. You don't need to sell it to them. They already want it. All you got to do is educate them or tell them that it's there. Versus like when you do reach out to companies who say you have to have X amount of followers, what they're expecting from that is X amount of sales. Usually they're expecting a certain return. Usually they already have it mathed out. They're like, if you have X amount of followers, then you're going to get X amount of sales. And that's where we get that, like, I have to be able to raise a company's bottom line, or I have to be able to to sell things, and then you feel really sleazy and salesy, and it's gross. It's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
No.
It was just really cool for me personally because like I was like, hey, I have a secret. That's like what it felt like. It's not a secret, but it's just something that so few people know that it feels like a secret. And like I've said before to you, Catherine, like I think it's really cool that you're sharing this with people. Like you're doing these podcasts and you have the book and everything. I just think you're just giving people so many different ways to get access to this information. And it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So
Thank you.
thank you.
I don't actually know if personable and like I know that personality is a word and I know that personable is a word. I'm sure that I've made up my own words in this episode with like personability and stuff. I don't know if any of that's correct. I never said that I was an English major, so I'm
We're
sorry
gonna
if
coin these terms. If you start using these, you owe us royalties.
my mom is pulling out the dictionary as she's listening to this episode. I can feel her every single time I say it. She'll just sit there and go, oh, no.
I'm gonna Google it after this, and I'm gonna tag her in a post.
She always said that she was a dictionary thumper. Or people with the
Did you find
dictionary.
your dad joke?
I did. I did.
Okay. All right.
I don't trust trees. They're very shady.
Oh my God.
It
Okay.
was the best I could come up with in a short amount of time, and it seemed appropriate since I'm in the middle of the desert. So
Yeah. Well, thanks for
oh,
listening to that horrendousness, everyone.
yep, pretty much. And if you would like to get your free copy of Don't Say Sponsorship, all you got to do is go to www.don'tsaysponsorship.com. All right. See you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.